great weekend, great fights, coach. What's your analysis? Let's start with Paddy Pimblett.
Well, my analysis of Paddy Pimblett is congratulations, Paddy. When it came to who I wanted to win, because I don't know Paddy, I know Michael. I wanted Michael to win, but when it came to who I thought was going to win, I thought it was going to be Paddy, because I personally have seen Michael fight on many occasions, and I just don't think he fights to his best potential. Mm-hmm. So I just thought he was going to make it entertaining, and he was going to survive, dying by the sword type mentality. You know, that's him. That's what I thought. So there you go. So he died by the sword because he went out and did things that probably weren't to his benefit, and Paddy capitalized on it and therefore got the victory.
Do you remember the last episode we've done? We were discussing would age make a difference, and maybe the older fighters would not be able to manage a younger talent. But we've seen both examples last weekend. We've seen that Michael Chandler couldn't, but Alex could.
Readjusting. How do you take care of your body, how you fight. You know, matchups are very important. So in this particular case, yes, okay. So we have the younger fighter in Paddy, but he's on the rise. He's been rolling everybody over. I mean, from the last one when you got Bobby Green, come on, that's pretty impressive, you know, and then this one is even more impressive. So, you know, Paddy's on the rise. I think, you know, he's knocking on that door, you know, if not there already, he's knocking on that door. He's a fan favorite. I actually like him. I can't understand half of what he says, but he's fun to watch. You know, I like what he says. I liked him. I liked him and his counterpart, the girl, what's her name? She just retired.
Yeah, his friend. Yeah.
God, I forgot her name, but I made you forget too. Yeah. So, but she's awesome, you know, and you know, may she retire healthy and happy, because she brought a lot to the sport, you know. Yep. And but now it's Paddy on his own, and you know, he's fun. Like I said, he's fun to watch, you know, and you can get a good fight out of him. Before, I wasn't a big believer in him because I thought when he fought Jared Gordon, I thought Jared Gordon got him, and I was like, oh, that there's just blah blah blah. And then as he kept fighting, I kept seeing huge improvements, and I went, man, this guy's the real deal. And that you don't have me anymore questioning anything about Paddy Pimblett. He's the real deal.
He was always the real deal, and I love, however, the UFC have managed to give him fights to build him to be where he is at today. I mean, let's be honest, they gave him older fighters. They gave him Tony Ferguson, they gave him Bobby Green, they gave him Michael Chandler. All of these are quite old fighters. And now that he's got to that level, he's got the experience he needed, now he's ready to face a top 5. But I don't think he was ready before. And I think they noticed that, and they gave him not an easy route, but it's challenging, but with older fighters.
Well, in the UFC, there's no easy route. You know, all those guys are killers. So for us to say, oh, they gave him this or that, hello, any one of those guys can beat you at any one time. So there is no easy route. They just calculated where the route might be the best for him to become successful. Now he's at that point where now he's meeting the alpha dog. So now it's time to, you know, well, actually, if you think about it, you know, Michael Chandler is alpha dog. So he already met one and he conquered it. So,
but Michael is 38.
He's 38. 38? I don't think he was over the hill. No, I refuse to believe that. Michael Chandler was still good, and he took care of him. So Paddy's the real deal.
I mean, honestly, the only real deal, in my opinion, in the last week, it was just Alex Volkanovski. I mean, he ended the fight with his post speech when he said, adversity is a privilege. And you could see this guy is the king of adversity, is the king of fighting a hard fight and coming out as a winner. I mean, I think in the 3rd round or the 4th round, Diego Lopez punched him, and maybe the glove touched his eyelid, and he could not see. And he still fought and managed to come out as a winner. I mean, this guy is unbelievable.
Yeah, you know, some fighters they will fight no matter what. They don't complain. They don't say nothing. Things could go wrong, and they won't tell you anything. Good example for me is, We had DC, when he used to fight for us, when he fought Josh Barnett, he broke his hand. And he didn't tell us he broke his hand. And the reason why he didn't tell us because he said you guys weren't going to stop the fight. And Josh Barnett broke his hand too. And then he showed his hand. And I'll go, man, did you see Josh Barnett broke his hand? And DC goes, yeah, no, I broke mine too. I go, what? He goes, you didn't tell us. He goes, yeah, because you guys weren't going to stop this fight. And I'm like, well, we weren't going to stop the fight. And then you go into a situation where you had Umar, who broke his hand and didn't tell us, and he fought on. But I think the thing I'm trying to say here is the fighters that are out there, let the coaches decide, on what they could do for you. Because had you told us you broke your hand, then maybe we could have worked around it, maybe we could have worked around it. But
right.
Yeah, we wouldn't have stopped it per se. If you wanted to continue to fight, we'd have let you fight. As long as you're, doing well, we'd let you fight. But if you couldn't fight, that's one thing. But why are we going to have you continue to throw that hand that's broken when it's broken? It's stupid. We got to work around it.
To change the technique, to change how you approach the fight.
Strategy, the technique, everything has to change. So if the fighters out there, you guys are listening, if something like that happens, tell your corner, and if they're good corner, they'll readjust.
You're right. Don't you think there is a small percentage where the fighter is scared that the other fighter and his corners would find out that, for example, Omar broke his hand and they maybe capitalize on that or capitalize on injury if they find out? Like, oh, yeah,
100%.
So maybe that's why the fighter doesn't say it.
I don't know. I don't think that's the case, but that could be sometimes. Yeah, it could be sometimes a fighter goes, well, if I tell my coach, they're gonna blah blah blah. Then
live, everybody could hear it.
Yeah. So the other guys can look at it and go, oh, he's got a broken leg or his legs hurt, this and that. Because we as cornermen look for little things like that we can expose. So yeah, it is something you have to be careful about because you have the other ones listening, and then or you have someone that maybe some of these guys have earpieces on and someone's talking to them on the side, which you can't do. Someone can tell you, hey, so and so, or at least maybe I think you can. And no one's ever told us it's illegal to have someone talking to you while you're in the corner,
right?
So it is possible, but I've never done that, but. Yeah, I could see somebody saying, hey, he's got a broken hand or this and that, then you can focus on that. Because when you're in the corner, you don't hear very much. Because there's too much noise from the crowd and, it's just very hard.
You're right. I mean, if you were in the apex, you would definitely hear.
You hear everything in the apex. There you hear the other corner, the apex. No, apex is different.
So you should not disclose any of these things if you're fighting there.
No, you don't want to disclose it.
Yeah.
It would be bad.
But as the sport is evolving, what you just said earlier when you pointed out to the camera and you said fighters, like, make sure you tell your cornerman if you have. I mean, I think this is part of the progress. I mean, there is something to learn here that we should definitely find a way to get the communication between the fighter and the corner to maybe give them a sign or something that I'm injured, but I would like to continue. And then you could change the strategy, as you said.
Yeah. I mean, well, there's so many fighters that get injured. It's not like it's very uncommon. It's very common fighters are hurt. It's just let your corner know. And a lot of them do let their corners know. A lot of them, they do. They let their corners know. So it's just some of them don't. And in this case, I just brought up 2 people that didn't. But I can also bring up so many of them that do.
Do you guys in the training camp would discuss kind of thing, like alter your strategy based on an injury? Like, for example, you would have a couple of rounds of the fighter fighting without using their right hand, for example, and you're like, all right, let's imagine that you broke your fist. Now just use your shoulder, just use your elbows more. Like, is these things part of the training? Or no?
They do become part of the training, but it's never one of those things we focus on entirely on, oh, you're injured, this and that. Unless you're injured already, then we focus on that and while the thing is healing, yes. But we normally, no. If the guy's healthy, we don't focus on, let's focus on you're injured, because if he's healthy, you want to focus on the things you can do healthy. If he's not healthy, and he wants to continue the fight, then you work around it. Like some of the fighters, for instance, Luke Rockhold, when he fought, Michael Bisping, he couldn't use his number one biggest weapon. It was his left shin kick, and so he wasn't able to kick. So we had to work around it. So we worked around things regarding that, and it wasn't a successful route either. But again, we worked around it. But we knew what we were going into, and it didn't work. It didn't work.
Don't you think, again, since we're talking, this topic is about how the sport is evolving and everything is progressing, don't you think maybe right now is the time to implement fight pilots? Like, for example, as I said, that, okay, this round, you just don't use this right hand, or this round, you don't use your left hand. You can use your elbows more in case you broke your hand, or in case something, you know what I mean? Like, just to, as a pilot, like, let's try things out. Let's try an exit strategy, as maybe I'm trying to find the right word.
Well, I'll tell you what I do is when I have someone that's so good that he can do everything, I would handicap him. So I would make him only throw left hand, or I would make him only play defense, or I would make him only kick, or I would make him just move so he can get him tired. I used to do this to Cain Velasquez all the time. I used to make him handicap him. I used to make him put his hands behind his back of his head, put his face right in front of the guys, and them try to tee off on him. Everything that they can do, everything he couldn't do anything, but just put his face in front of them. And I used to do that a lot, so I'm used to doing that. I've done that for so many years, so that's not something uncommon for me to do. But again, I don't do it based on the fact that they're injured or they're going to get injured. I do it based on the fact that they're so damn good that I have to figure out ways to make them better, make it challenging for them. So that's why I do that to Cain, because it was very, very, very easy for him to beat people back in the day, so I would always have to handicap him, and we'd have to have 2 or 3, 4 sparring partners and kill him all in one sparring session, because he just had incredible cardio compared to them, and his pace was unbelievable, and his ability was unbelievable. So it was very difficult for fighters to go 5 rounds with Cain. Very, very hard.
Speaking of heavyweights, one of your students liked to train with heavyweights, and you told him to not do that anymore in the gym. Islam Makhachev had this habit, and you had to tell him to stop.
Well, he said it was okay when I was in Dagestan. I'm watching him, and he's sparring with heavyweights, and I didn't like it. He was handling it fine. He was doing better than the heavyweight himself. But it's just the fact that the guy was like 230, 40 pounds, and Islam's 180, 181. That's about the average weight for him when he's in fight camp. So I didn't want Islam, to get hit by something that big, because when you get hit with someone that's a big heavyweight that's got that kind of weight and ferocity, it's killing brain cells. So I don't really like him doing that. But he did it enough times, and probably still to this day he's probably doing it, because he's a stud. He likes challenging himself, and he dominates, and he's super strong. But again, I don't like it. I personally don't like it.
Do you stop these things in your gym? Like, if you see it, if you come in like under your watch, like, guys, this is not happening.
I basically, when it's real sparring, it's not happening. No. When it comes to play fighting, the technique sparring,
rolling,
they can do that, no problem. It's just the real rolling, the real fighting. I don't like them going with that. The rolling, I'm not as concerned about as much, but the punching I am. The punching, the kicking, because of just their size is just too much.
And these heavyweights would not try to tone it down if this is happening when they're fighting with a lightweight. Like, they would use 20% of their power instead of like 50 or 40.
Only when you're in the situation where you're told that when you guide a guy that's really good, and you have to do everything you can just to keep him off of you, you're not going to go 20 or 30%. You're going to go all out. Like with Islam, these guys aren't going to go light. They're not going light. They're going to go do what they got to do, and they're going to go hard, and like I said, I don't like it, because, you could get hurt, and if they went light, then that's not really sparring. That's not sparring, So that's why when I told you about what I did with Cain Velasquez, they were going hard. They were trying to kill him, They were trying to knock him out. And so it wasn't light. It was as hard as they could go, and as real as it could be, because otherwise it's not real. It's not really going to be functional as well as you can make it when you get into the fight. The fight needs to be kind of like, this person's actually trying to knock my head off. I'm used to it.
Do you, as the fight approaches, try to tone down the adversity or how hard the sparring rounds would go, or you would still keep it up high?
It depends. It depends when they peak. If they peak too early, we have to hold them back some. If they don't peak too early, we have to keep going until they peak just right. We want to, ideally, we want to peak the week of before the fight. That's when ideally. Usually we have been doing this. The fighters are looking so good. Khabib and I and the other coaches, Muhammad, we know, or say Safula, and then we would say, hey, he's looking good. If he gives us a really good sparring round this week, let's cut him 2 days early. Let's ask him. And if the fighter himself says, yes, I'm good with this sparring session, let's go. So we'll leave it alone just to keep him primed and healthy, because when you're sparring, there's always risks involved in getting injured. And we don't want that to happen, because we don't want to go into the fight injured, even though it's part of the, it's part of the sport. A lot of fighters fight injured.
Because of that, I think Max Holloway have dropped sparring for the longest while. I think maybe in his recent 2 fights, he went back to sparring, but then he was just doing more of like play sparring just to enhance his technique. And he completely said he's out of sparring. Why would he damage himself? What do you think of that approach?
I don't like it. It's not good. It'll never be good for me.
Why not?
Because it doesn't work. Don't care who says what. Doesn't work. That's the Muay Thai mentality is fantastic. That works because those guys fight almost every other week. So they have to heal their bodies. But, how do you get that kind of experience from a Muay Thai fighter if you don't go all out? Now, let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. I had many years ago, I had someone that used to be with me. He's a business guy. He wasn't a fighter, but he was always in there in that play room. I call it the play room, the technique room. They're sparring, and they're what they call sparring. I don't call sparring. So this one individual was there for 5 years, training with the guys, DC, Kane, sparred with all of them. According to him, sparred with all of them. So he tells me, Hab, I want to fight. I go, what do you mean you want to fight? He goes, I want to fight. I go, you're not ready to fight. He goes, yes, I am. I go, no, you're not. He goes, I spar with Kane. I spar with DC, Luke. I spar all those guys. Yeah, Hab, I'm ready. I go, that's not sparring. Okay, you're play fighting. That's not sparring. That's technical work. Okay, that is not real sparring. Real sparring is a whole different level. No, I want to give me a shot. I want to show you. I want to prove you. I go, no. I said no, and he kept pushing me, and I said, all right, fine. I'm gonna put you in there then. So I next time he came in, I said, okay, you're sparring. He goes, go. He was happy. I was going to go spar. And I put him in with this guy named Davin Clark. And Davin had a few fights, like 3 or 4 or 5 pro fights. He's a good fighter, real good fighter. And Davin goes, Hav, what do you want me to do with him? I said, what do you mean do with him? Spar him. He's looking at me confused. And I go, Davin, he wants to know what it's like. Spar him. He said he sparred. Spar him. See what it's like. Okay, so there goes. Boom, boom, boom. He got the living hell beat out of him so bad. There was the most blood I've ever had in the cage room. The most blood ever. He took a beating from hell. And then it was, I didn't just like, that's what you wanted. This is what you got. And I told him at the end, I go, well, you know what? I said, you got your ass kicked, but I respect this about you. You didn't bitch about it. But he never came back either. Yeah, so. It's real. I mean, hey, look, when you're talking about fighting, you're talking to me. If you're a student, I'll treat you like a student. But if you want to be a fighter, then I'm going to treat you like a fighter. And you can't treat the two the same. It's not. You cannot. You got to treat the fighter like a fighter, the student like a student. The student should never have to go through that unless he pushes for that. And that's what his desire is. And then he's a student fighter, I guess you can say, right? But for the most part, most people should not be involved in the actual sparring like a fighter. That's a whole different animal.
Okay, it always fascinated me that why the hard sparring sessions are just like, as you said, 1 week or 10 days before the fight. Why wouldn't it be like at least a few weeks and then have it a play for rounds just to avoid injuries going into the fight? Why is this like hard sparring sessions ends 1 week before the fight? That seems to me like it's so reckless.
No, what you call reckless is called genius on the fighters and the coaches that are good. They're taking too much time off before, then the sharpen the skills are not there. If you take too much time off before fight time, let's say you take a month off, then you do light training,
light sparring.
You're not going to be as sharp. You're not going to be as sharp. I don't care who tells you. You're not. Impossible. You need to have that sharpness. And You can do, like I said, the most we've done is, let's say, like Monday, May 13 days,
13 days.
12 days.
12
12
days.
days. The most we've ever done is 12 days.
Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
That one's okay.
Yeah.
It depends on how they are. Like with Islam's last fight. We let him have basically 12 days. Monday was the last day he sparred, unless he wanted to do any more, and he didn't. So Monday was it for him.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Not to risk it with going in with an injury.
Yeah, because he was super sharp, and he had a super long camp.
Yeah.
So we need to hold him back some, and that was a proper thing to do. But Umar, no, Umar was playing catch up, so we had to keep him sparring.
Okay.
So he kept sparring
until like a week before the fight.
No, yeah, he sparred properly. Yeah, I think he sparred. Maybe 8 days before the fight. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, but that's normal.
Okay.
That's very normal.
I see it as normal, but I'm just looking at it from like an outsider perspective looking in, and I'm like, that's risky.
Nah, it's been normal. It's been normal in boxing forever. It's been
I know, but just like injuries before a fight, and then he catches this little injury that would linger into the fight.
That's happened.
It happens
many
all
times,
the time.
Many times.
Yeah.
Many times. So it's not uncommon.
Okay.
That's part of the territory.
So you don't think you would drop it to 2 weeks and then that's the cutoff?
No.
You're going hard.
No, I'm going to base it on the fighter. I'm not going to base it on the ideology of 2 weeks. No way.
Okay.
No way, because if that fighter needed that extra sparring, then no way am I going to say, oh, no, it's 2 weeks. That's what we need to do. No. No. You have to spar. We've even had one time a fighter spar the week of because he needed it mentally, and it worked out perfect.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. One of the fighters we know?
Yeah.
Okay.
But we worked that out. It's fine.
Wow.
I mean, he fought for that, wanted to spar. We let him do it.
Okay.
It was Khabib.
Oh, okay. Wow. Whose fight was it?
I don't remember. But his sparring partner was Jake Shields.
Okay. Interesting. The week of the fight.
The week of the fight, Monday, the week of the fight. He pleaded for me to let him spar.
He was asking for it.
Yeah, he was asking for it. I said, no, your fight's this week. He goes, please. I want to spar with Jake. I looked at Jake. Jake, you want to spar with him? Jake goes, yeah, sure. Because Jake's an unbelievable guy.
Yeah.
He was a great fighter and just unbelievable person. So they sparred.
Wow.
Yeah, 1 week before his fight.
And the fight was, of course,
Khabib destroyed his opponent. Yeah. Yeah, he was ready to go. Yeah.
No, okay. That's the case. I mean,
like I said, it depends on the individuals. Normally I don't do that, but I have done it, and just because he asked for it.
Okay.
You have to give the fighter what they want sometimes, if not out of reason. And it wasn't out of reason what he asked.
What was a request you've got that was out of a reason? Give me an example. That you're like, no way. Just keep it.
That's hard to say. I really don't have anything per se that I said no way on. I say no way on a lot of things, but there's no request, that I can really come up with right now.
Okay.
Maybe there's a lot in my brain, but right now none of them are coming out.
I mean, your students are disciplined and they follow this method, and your whole gym follows the same philosophy. Maybe that's why it's not, because they're all disciplined and they're not doing recklessly.
They're not all disciplined.
They're not.
No.
Okay.
No, that's what you're there for. They're all disciplined, then you'd have no problem. If you say all my fighters are disciplined, that's baloney. They're not.
Okay.
You have to be there, crack the whip on them. You have to make sure, are you going to bed? You have to put people in charge of them. You have to do everything. There's not discipline. No. If they did, then they don't need a coach.
You're right.
Right. They need a coach. So that's why they're there. You look at Khabib's last little thing when he was put Tahir in charge of these guys to make sure they were in bed early, and Tahir failed, and Khabib was ripping them apart that was your responsibility. That's Tamia disciplined, and then Tahir's like, well, they're disciplined, they should know it. No, you should have known. He told you. He assigned you to watch those guys. So no, I'm not going to tell you fighters are disciplined always. No, they're not. That's what we're there for, to get them disciplined, to get them on track when they need to get on track.
But those who were disciplined from the get-go are champions.
No.
Still no.
No. They were disciplined from the get-go, achieved the most. Okay, but there was people that weren't disciplined that became champions too. You have to work on it. It's not just oh yeah, this guy was disciplined from the very beginning, so we knew he was going to be a champion. No, just because he's disciplined is going to be a champion. Does he have the ingredients? Does he know what it takes? Like Usman at the very beginning was not mentally 100% like he needed to be. And I asked Khabib, I need your help with him because he's not mentally there. He's physically there. Everything's there. And he appears to be dedicated, but not dedicated enough. So we got on him, and then, 1 year before he won the title, I said, Khabib, we got him. And next thing you know, here's the guy winning the title, and he's on the roll. And now he's pretty darn disciplined now. But what other fighters do, I don't know. But I can't tell you he was disciplined right from the get-go. He wasn't. He worked out. Yes, he worked out. But he wasn't disciplined like he needed to be. And we needed to make him mentally stronger. And between myself and Khabib, we did. Made him mentally stronger. I mean, he needed both of us, to that. And that's what I'm trying to tell you here is not all fighters, are disciplined, or not all fighters are not disciplined, because some fighters are extremely disciplined. Islam is extremely disciplined, and you don't have to ever worry about him.
That's the thing you've mentioned before, that Khabib and Islam were disciplined, and they've always praised Abdul Manap and called him like an interior designer because how he kept them disciplined, and they came to your gym disciplined.
Yes.
So I'm saying that's why when I referred that they become champions, I was trying to refer to Islam and Khabib, that they were disciplined from the get-go and they became champions.
But if you're talking about them specifically, yes. But if you're talking about all other Dagestanis, you're wrong. Because they're not all disciplined. I can tell you that. No way.
Yeah.
Because I have to deal with some myself that I have to get them out of. This person's not this person's not that. So they're not all disciplined, but they're all loyal. They're all loyal. They're all dedicated, but disciplined? No.
How much would you say a coach should focus on his students' discipline more than his technique? Like, is it, you would split it, like a coach would spend 50% of the time disciplining the student, or more of that is technical? Or do you get coaches that are purely technical and they just leave it to the student to discipline themselves? How does it work?
I don't know.
In your gym?
Yeah, in my gym, I just look at a fighter and I see what he needs. If he needs more discipline, then discipline is what he'll get. If he needs more technical, then technical is what he's going to get. I never look at, I'm going to split it 50% discipline. No, I'm going to work everything. I'm going to work the areas that they need to work on. Some people don't need discipline as much, just a tiny bit. Like Islam didn't need any of it. So what am I working on him in? I got to work on encouraging him. I got to work on different things of what he's doing good, add new things to the table for him, and so then there's other ones that lacked the discipline, and that lacked the drive. So you got to find a fuel to get them to act on that. It's not that easy. It's not that easy. It's easy to say, we do this formula. No, it's not. You got to take every individual, and they're all different.
Okay, let's dive in deeper. How do you coach your coaches?
Well, how you coach your coaches is examples. You show examples, you see results. Examples, results. Examples, results. This person does this. You show that bad example. What happened because of the results of what they did? Change the results. Look at the results now. They changed. They're favorable. So there you go. Now you have a learning tool as what to do and what not to do. So that's easy. Real easy.
When Khabib transitioned into a coach, was it an easy transition?
Khabib was a coach right when he was a fighter. So there was no easy transition. He came as a coach. So, after his sparring, he'd be there cornering his brothers, giving them advice. So he was always a coach when he came to me. So his father transitioned him into a coach, not me. He was already a great coach back then. He was good. He was always did his sparring. And if one of his brothers, Islam, or the other Islam Mavadov would do sparring, or Zubaira, he would stay and corner them. So he was always doing this, always. So it's not like, he stopped fighting and now he became coach. No, he was coaching back then. He was doing an unbelievable job, making my job really easy back then, and all I do with him is I tell him certain little things to make him better. That's all. I don't coach Khabib very much. I don't need to. His father did that for him.
Do you think in order to be a good coach, you have to be a good fighter and you have to have your record? Or do you think some coaches they're just born with it and they can just coach?
Well, I don't know if you're born with it, but you definitely 1,000,000% do not have to ever be a fighter. You never have to want to be in there to fight, but you can coach world champion fighters. Angelo Dundee did it. You know, what he have fight? Gonzalez, the great boxer, Gonzaga. He was his father was a pianist, and he became his coach. Didn't fight. You know, there's a whole bunch of great coaches that never fought one day. They don't need to fight. They just have to be analytical. They have to look, and they have to see, and they have to love it. They have to want it. And if you want it and you can practice the technique and et cetera, you don't ever have to use it. You don't have to use it. If you go on spar and you use it, that's better. If you go and fight and you use it and you still have that great mind, the great passion, that's fantastic. But if you use your mind and you want to be a great coach, you can be a great coach. You don't have to ever have stepped in the boxing ring, kickboxing ring, or the octagon. Never. You never have to step in there to be a great coach. I know. I've done it. I've seen it. My son is following in those footsteps where he's learning all the technique. I've trained him in boxing and now some Thai boxing, and he's doing a little bit of grappling here and there. But he's becoming a heck of a coach. His fighters are basically, his record is unbelievable for someone that's never done it. His fighters are undefeated, the majority of them, you know.
Wow.
So you can do it, but it's a mental thing more than anything. But better if you do know the technique. It'll help you become a better coach if you understand the technique. But mostly important, you have to learn. And what my son did is for years he was there without saying a word. He just listened to me, Kane, Khabib, Ron Kessler. He'd listen to all of us and take that advice. And my son would be in the position now where he was asked to speak. You know, when I came here to Dubai last year, you know, I guess they put him in there to speak, and he didn't really want to speak. But then when I was there, and Cain Velasquez said, "Hey, you know, Jeremy, you have anything to say?" And I'm kind of confused, like, Jeremy, what do you mean he has something to say? He shouldn't be talking yet. He's not ready for that, you know, to speak to the team, right? So Jeremy said, no, he didn't have the speech. I tell Cain, I go, Cain, why are you having my son speak? He doesn't have no room to speak right now. He needs more time. No, he has time. He's ready. He knows what he's doing, blah, blah, blah. So Cain got it in my head that I went, maybe I'm being too hard as a father. Maybe my son can speak. So I said to him right after that, shortly after, Jeremy, you have anything to say? Said no. So little by little, now he does speeches. Now if you listen to him, he's very intelligent. He says a lot of wise things. So I'm just giving you the example of how somebody can want to be a coach and become a successful coach, which he is. I consider him successful now. You know, he's going to be, who knows how great he's going to be, but he's successful, you know, and he didn't do it because he wanted to fight. He did it because he wanted to coach.
100%. I can see it in him. I've seen a clip of him on Instagram, and he was just sitting on the gym's floor talking to the fighters. And you don't have to understand English to figure out that this guy has the it factor. He has it. He has the coach's touch and tone, and he was talking from his heart, and I loved it.
Yeah, he does. Yeah. And he's learned from, you know, he's got great people around him, like Ron Kessler. He had Cain with him. He had Khabib, myself, DC. I mean, he's had a lot of people to emulate and learn from, you know, and he would always ask me, who should I learn from, Dad? And I say, well, don't just listen to me. You have other great people here, and soak up all the knowledge, soak it up. And he did. Soaked it all up. He listened to everybody, every coach. Because I said, every coach has something of value for you. You just got to figure out what's the good and what's the bad, what fits for you, what doesn't fit for you, and let you leave it out. And that's what he's done.
Did he come to you to choose this as a career, or was it part of your plan to get him involved?
No, it was never part of my plan. It's like, let me put it this way. When I'm doing all my coaching and stuff, people ask me, well, what do you want your career to be like? I go, I don't care. I didn't care. Because when I'm gone, I'm gone. My kids didn't care about it, so I figured that doesn't mean nothing. My legacy means nothing. So I'm gonna be gone. So who's gonna enjoy my legacy? No one, you know, in my opinion. And then I was training my son like for a little bit, for a few years, quite a few years already. And one day he says, "Dad, I want to be a coach." I go, "You want to be a coach?" He goes, "Yeah." I go, "All right, okay, you sure?" He goes, "Yeah, I want to be a coach." "You sure you want to be a coach? You know, blah, 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 what to do, this, not that." He goes, "Yeah, I want to be a coach." So I brought him on board. And now my legacy does matter because I'm going to leave it for him.
Right.
Before, it didn't matter. If he still didn't want to coach, I'll be honest with you, what I've done, I did it for myself. I didn't do it for anybody to look at me and tap him on the shoulder. Now what I'm doing, I want to do for him to have something to build on himself. I want him to look at the example of where you can go and how far he can go, and that's for me is awesome. Just like I always tell Khabib, I think Khabib's going to be the greatest of all time as a coach if he continues. I really do. He's incredible, and whether that's Khabib's goal or not, I don't know, but I know this, he's a great, great coach. And my son has that potential. He's not there, but he's working on it. He's young. He's working on it.
So it wasn't as a father, because every father likes to see his son with him and like along with the ride, and maybe they can inherit whatever they've done and to go. So it wasn't something that when he was younger you wanted to see.
No, I wanted them to be successful, whatever they wanted to do.
He chose it himself.
He chose it himself.
That's amazing.
Yeah, he's the one that asked me to train him. I wouldn't train him, and I made him ask me every single time. And actually, people that know me know that I don't ask fighters to train. If they don't want to train, they don't have to train. If they have a session with me, and they forget about the session and they're not there, I don't get upset. I just go do something else. I'll go eat. I'll go hang out with somebody. I don't make anybody do anything. If they don't want to come with me, they don't come with me. I do not tell somebody, you do it this way, you do it that. I give them options. A fighter should be able to decide for himself what he wants to do and what he doesn't want to do, who he wants to train with, who he doesn't want to train with. I never make anybody train with anybody. Never have. A lot of people think I control everybody. I do this. I don't do any of that. Never have. Never controlled any of my fighters. I always give them options. I always say, what do you want? If you do this, this is what could happen. But you tell me what you want to do. We're not gonna tell you do this or do that. No. There's a few times I have done it, but for the majority of the time, no.
Does it add extra pressure on the fighters if, for example, because Khabib is so well accomplished and maybe the student, whoever he's coaching, would feel that pressure? If he's cornering him, he would feel that pressure, like he has to match his expectations or be on that level, which would add an extra layer of pressure. Like, Khabib is my coach, I gotta impress him, I have to do something, and they would panic maybe because Khabib is there looking at them.
Yeah, I think it's the opposite though.
Okay.
I think it does happen on occasion, but I think for the vast majority of the time, it gives them more energy, it gives them more power, it gives them more confidence to have someone like Khabib in the corner or Islam in the corner, or me, Islam, and Khabib in the corner. It's like a power three for a fighter. There's like, wow. So it energizes them. So I think it works more positively than negatively. So having someone like Khabib in your corner is a huge plus, not a negative, because, they're going to be more attentive. They're going to feel like that can't lose, that type of attitude. They will lose, but they're going to feel like they can't lose, because not every time everybody's going to win.
Right. I mean, I could see it both ways, and I could see it if Khabib was in my corner. Yes, you'll be motivated, but also like you don't want to disappoint him. That's what I'm trying to say. As his friend, as he's your coach, you're like, I don't want to disappoint. And walking into that would maybe, that's what I said, it would maybe add that extra layer of, it wouldn't.
No. Okay. I've been in that situation where I fought without my coach first time, and it was like, damn it, I don't have my coach with me. So I fought, and I did great, but I wasn't confident. When I have my coach with me, he's the one that's trained me, I'm very confident. So yeah, no, it's more confident than it is negative.
So it's safe to say that when Islam faced Alex the first time and Khabib wasn't part of his corner, affected him?
It's safe to say it affected him a little bit, yes. I would say yes, 100%. I would say it affected him a little bit. And having him in the corner the second time around was a huge plus. He was with him in the second time, right?
He was, yeah.
It was a huge plus. Whenever you have that kind of combination, it's a big deal, And Khabib is the number one most important person in Islam's corner, for sure. He's becoming that for all of them, to be honest with you. I'm good for him. I'm good for Khabib personally. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying I don't coach the guys and I'm not the head coach. I am the head coach. But as a head coach, I lay back and I let the person that's actually the real leader be the leader. And he's the real leader. I'm the person that leads him, but he leads the team. That's his team. That's his father's team, and that's his father's legacy, and I know my role, and my role is to be the supporting role for him. And don't get me wrong, it's not like I can't coach and do it again somewhere else. I can, but I'm with this team, and forever we're going to be together, and I'm going to play my part. And my part is wherever I fit in, wherever Khabib needs me to benefit the team, I'm going to be.
Beautiful. All right, speaking of Islam, then the circle back to Paddy Pimblett. Do you think Paddy deserves a title shot, or he's not ready to face somebody like Islam?
Paddy's ready to face anybody. I mean, what he's done already, his credentials, his winning record in the UFC, and his hype, and what he can do, how he can motivate people. If they give him the next title shot, he deserves it because they gave it to him. So whoever they give it to him, they give, and let's see who they give him to, who gets into the arena with him next. I don't know, but is he worthy? Yes. Yes.
And he's interesting, as you said.
Yes, he's very interesting.
Yeah.
And he's got a whole England behind him, and a lot of America is going to be behind him. Most of America will be behind.
Yeah.
He has a lot of fans, and I'm a fan. I wasn't a big fan at the beginning. I was not. When he fought Jared Gordon, I was like, nah. But I've become a huge fan. I've always was a fan of his talking, though.
Yeah.
He was always fun. I always liked that about him.
Yeah.
So I was always a fan there, but his actual fighting, I wasn't that keen on him until, I really looked and I went, well, what was I thinking? Sometimes we let our judgment affect.
But you're right about the Gordon's fight. I mean, in many people's eyes, he lost that fight. He won it with a decision, but many people didn't agree with that decision. And that's what I said at the beginning of the show. I feel like after that fight, they gave him a bunch of older fighters to get more experience, and maybe now he's ready. But when he faced somebody young, it was hard. It was a hard fight.
Yeah, but Jared Gordon is a lot tougher than people realize too. He's a real tough customer. So good kid, good fighter. So that was his spotlight that was actually taken from him, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
because that should have been his, and it wasn't. But just not in God's plans, I guess.
But if Paddy Pimblett improved after that fight, 100% he did.
No, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. He's improved every single time.
Yeah.
Every time he comes out, his confidence is stronger and stronger all the time, and his speaking is pretty impressive. I like him. He's fun to watch. I can't understand half the words he says, but I do pick up on him. I go, oh, did he say that? Oh, okay, he's funny.
Yeah. And the new generation of fighters, Coach Firas said it as well, that the new generation is unbelievable because they've been watching the sport from the beginning. They've learned where the fighters were going wrong, and they kind of are completing the game right now. They're good in every aspect of the game, where in the past we would just get a good striker or a good grappler, but now we're getting both.
They're getting better. They're getting better. They're getting better in all aspects, but not completely great yet. In all aspects, but they are getting more well-rounded, yes, for sure. But that's the problem, is the people that aren't well-rounded, there's your hole, there's your avenue of getting beat,
but you could be great at one aspect.
Yeah, but you could be great at one aspect, but if you can't close the distance on another person that's greater at that aspect, then you're in trouble. Jair versus Patricky Pitbull.
Yeah,
I mean, the distance of Jair was way too much. Because why? Because that's Jair's game. And Patricky couldn't get in on him, and he's not that great of a wrestler. He's good, but not great. But if he had a great, Aljamain Sterling type wrestling, then that would have been different. He could have got in and did his thing, and then Jair is not that great at wrestling defense. He's okay, not great.
Yeah.
But he's a great striker. He's got dynamic kicks. He's beautiful Taekwondo style kicks. Beautiful distance. If you give him the distance, he'll tear you apart.
Right. Do you think that fight maybe was a bit unfair to Pitbull to have his first UFC fight with Yair Rodriguez? I mean, it could have been like easier fight to welcome him, but he was thrown into the fire immediately.
Well, wait a minute. I mean, he's one of the greatest of all time from what we're all talking about. He was a featherweight, and he was a lightweight champion. He's fought the who's who back in the Bellator days. No. He could have put him in the world champion. That's fine. He's good. He's a great one for a reason. It's just the styles were different for him. That style was a tricky one for him. That's all. But it's not like he came from this. This guy was a champion. He came in a great situation, and he just fought stylistically. And then he's older too now. He's on the older side.
Right.
So those things are affected. They do affect you.
But no fighter can deny that going from another organization to the UFC as their first fight, like the media attention, the crowd, all of this madness would kind of play into them a little bit.
Yeah, if you're not accepting it properly, but there's fighters that come in and accept it like crazy. But 100% it does affect you, 1,000,000%. But some fighters can adapt, and did he adapt? I don't know. Maybe not.
It was a good fight.
Maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe not. Maybe he didn't adapt. He didn't get used to it because it does affect you 100%.
Right.
I'm not going to tell you, it goes, oh, it's no different. But it's the opponent. Now, see, that you're saying opponents. Now you're saying different. You said, well, the atmosphere, yeah, you're right, 100%.
The atmosphere for sure. But for example, when we got Michael Page to come, they gave him Kevin Holland. They didn't give him top 5 fighter. I mean, Kevin Holland is great, is amazing, but he's not a top 5er. And it was kind of a welcome fight to Michael Page. He's done well, and then therefore he got that confidence to come back and fight again and prove himself. And I feel like with Pitbull, maybe they should have gave him somebody easier than a top 5er, just to welcome him, just to ease him into the UFC machine. No. Okay.
No, he's a great champion. To put him in with somebody, they should have given him someone higher.
Wow.
He's a great champion. It's like
he's amazing.
To give him his due respect. If he came in as one of the winningest champions, right? To division champion, is still in the top of his game. Give him somebody else. He's a stud. Don't discredit who he is.
I'm not, but I'm just saying.
I'm just saying that. As a promotion, they did nothing wrong with giving him Yair. They could have given someone tougher than Yair. They could have given him Josh Emmett. They could have given him, who cares? He's that good, is all I'm saying. So it isn't like, oh, you're in the UFC, so we have to give you lower. No.
Just as the first fight, just to welcome him in.
No.
Like, ease your way in.
No. Give him the toughest.
I mean, it was a good challenge, because if he won that fight, then for sure they would have gave him the title fight.
Give him the toughest.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with it. He's used to it. And the one thing he had to deal with is some people can't deal with that pressure and the media, et cetera, the expectations. That's different. But the actual fighter himself that he's fighting against, come on, they spar with him all the time. These guys aren't new to the game. They're not. I have never sparred UFC fighters. I only sparred Bellator fighters. Patricky's been sparring these guys forever.
No. But as we said, the attention from the crowd and the media would definitely play a part. I'm not talking about the skills wise.
Yes. But also remember this too: the UFC technically does not, usually does not favor you to go up, etc. They
would give you tough challenges.
Yeah, you swim on your own. They make a good matchup. It's a good matchup.
Yeah,
they felt that was a good matchup. That's the way it was. What they did with Paddy, they don't do to too many people. What they did with Paddy, not too many people. They just put you in. They throw you in the pool. You swim.
Yeah.
Why they do what they do, I don't know. I have no idea.
I mean, it makes sense because with certain fighters, if they're younger, then they can afford to do it. Like with Sean O'Malley and with Paddy Pimblett, because they're younger, they could afford to give them time to reach to that level. But with Pitbull, because he's older and there's not much time left, so they're like, all right, either you sink or you swim.
Basically, I think what it is with the UFC is just the algorithm is making money, and what is going to make the most money, they're going to do.
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, I can see it both ways. I definitely agree that give him a tough fight. If he wins it, then he's entitled for a title fight, because Yair is number 4. So if he beat number 4,
like I said, they could have given him number 2, number 3, and number 1. I don't care. Who cares?
Yeah,
could have fought him. Patricky can fight them all.
He definitely could. I'm just saying, suddenly you walk into an arena where there's 18,000 people. That he's never faced before. He's faced people with skills, but he's never faced 18,000 people.
I'm not sure about that. I'm sure he's faced quite a bit of people before. So I'm disagreeing with you, because the fighters are fighters. They welcome the challenge. Not all of them will sink under the pressure. Not all of them. I'm not saying you're not wrong in the sense that, this, but I'm not going to sit here and go, every single fighter, because that's baloney. No. Some fighters are going to handle it really well, and they welcome it. They embrace it. But there is some that won't.
Right. I mean, we've seen it with Mighty Mouse when he left the UFC to go to other organizations like one. Yes, he dominated them, but because he went, there is not much pressure. But to go into from one or Bellator to go into UFC, I'm saying there's going to be a little bit of a challenge. It's the crowd difference. Just that's it, the crowd, the number of crowd.
But again, it depends. Like you said, Mighty Mouse. Well, let's reverse it. Mighty Mouse comes in from one that comes into the UFC. He's still going to destroy.
He would
destroy.
And Pitbull, in my opinion, it was a good fight. I didn't think it was bad or anything. I liked the performance.
Yeah,
it was a decision at the end.
So it's basically it's two fighters fighting each other. You know, it's just you know, there's a lot of credit to be given, like we talked about, that maybe the UFC has a lot more top guys, which they do, you know, but Bellator still had some really top-notch guys.
No, but I'm not discussing the top right.
No,
we discussed it last episode.
No.
I'm just discussing the crowd size.
The crowd size, which I'm saying yes and no.
Okay.
So it's not a no, it's not a yes, because for me to say it's a no, then I do know, because I know personally some that didn't do well under the pressure. And then I say it's a yes because I've seen some that are like, wow, this guy just embraced it and look what he did. So
yeah,
yes and a no.
I mean, for sure. I mean, come on, coach. You cannot deny it. You've seen maybe some great performance from your students. Maybe not your students, maybe another gym where they've done great in their sparring session, but once they're in the fight and they experience the crowd and the cameras, they just suddenly they're gone. They're not there anymore. Yeah, that's part of the game. But in the gym, they're killers. But then they walk into the fight and they're like, hey man, what happened to you?
We call those gym fighters.
Yeah.
That happens.
Yeah.
That's the real thing. There is real gym fighters out there that kill everybody and then go in the fight and get killed.
Right.
That's what it is. So that's very common.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not uncommon at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. Coach, thank you so much. And next episode next week. Guys, please subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple, subscribe there as well. Father's plan, remember. Coach, can we get few t-shirts signed by you? Yes, but I have to get them. we could get them signed. Next episode, let's try to do that. Okay. For the listeners. Okay. Thank you so much. Right. Thank you everyone who's listening. Please tune in to the next episode.